Start streaming. Oh my gosh, I haven't done a stream in so long that I can't even remember. But I did get a haircut today, and so that means, hey, I should make a video. And I've got a cool case right in front of me, which is one of the ones where I've been working on this for a long time, and diode mode didn't really exactly lead me to the right answer, but I think I have it figured out now. So I thought I would take this chance to say, hey guys, let's follow along on this S22 Plus water damage that's here for data recovery. Plus, I want to tell you what happened to my ultimate saltwater damage experiment. So let's jump into it and let's see if I can figure out, can I even remember how to do a live stream? So I think this is maybe working. I'm not really sure. That is chat, and let's see. So before I jump into this S22, guess what I did over the last week? I got 60 working iPhones. I charged them all up to 80%, 100%. I drove down to Maryland and went to my dad's house, technically on the Maryland line of Virginia, so it was in Virginia. And went out on Dad's boat, and I put them in some crab pots and dropped them in the water. Now, why did I do that? Because I wanted to help kind of create some real science, real standards for digital evidence recovery. We've been doing a lot of training, a lot of helping out investigators for digital forensics. That's mostly what we do these days. And I thought, hey, what are you supposed to do when you recover a piece of evidence from liquid and you really need to know who done it? Then what's the best way to preserve the evidence? So I wanted to do this great big experiment with lots of copies and actually be able to do statistics on what is the best strategy. That is all on hold because when I went out to get the iPhones, they were gone. Womp, 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 sad trombone. My 60 iPhones right now, I think, are at the bottom of the bay. The good news, I called the local Marine police and told them the whole situation, trying to learn a little bit for digital forensics for guys like them. And they were like, all right, we're going to see if we can find them. So those guys are now in charge. And man, those phones have been down there for a week. Also, I found out that that particular spot is really, 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 really salty, like saltier than other bodies of salt water around. So we'll see what happens if those phones are ever recovered. If they are, that is going to be the ultimate, ultimate, ultimate diamond platinum water damage experiment. So stay tuned for that. What you would do to maximize your chance of getting data out of a phone that's been in saltwater for a long time? I would love to hear your thoughts. All right, so let's jump in to this repair that happens to be in front of me. And I'm going to check to see if this looks like it's working. And I see somebody in chat from Romania. Hello, Romania. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So this is in front of me a Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus. And I'll have to catch you up here a little bit because I just said, hey, I'm going to do a stream without a whole lot of planning. I'm actually supposed to be at pottery class in 6 minutes. I don't think I'm going to make it, but in lieu of going to pottery class, I'm going to walk through this S22 with you guys. All right, so I've got two of them here. So here's this one is my known good. So here is my known good. And I have my other one here. This is the water damaged one. So this one was kind of a sad case because the actual original problem from the note was that it booted, but it had no touch. And that ended up, I don't even remember, it was some little component in here, you know, was damaged, knocked off, fixed it, and it had touch. How do I know? Because I got it to boot. And the only way I could get it to boot is by taking off this chip that was getting hot. And the chip that was getting hot is this guy right here. Now that guy is the charge IC. So it's kind of like the Tigress of the Samsungs. Now there's another chip over here, this guy, that's like the TriStar. So here's your, port controller or TriStar, and here's the actual charge IC. So this chip was getting hot, so I pulled it off, and There was some corrosion under it. I cleaned that all up. I didn't notice any problems, so I put a new one on there. When I have this charge IC installed, the phone will not boot. But if I take it off, then just solder a wire to main power, the phone will boot. But it can't detect the battery, so it doesn't stay on long enough to actually get the data. So for that reason, rather than just say, hey, let's take the CPU and the memory chip and put it on a working board, I don't like to do that on the Samsungs because some of them have secret third security chips. So unless I have to, I don't like to do it. So surely, I've seen it boot up, surely we can get this thing to stay on. So every time I put a chip on there, I see current leaking to ground and it gets hot. What do? Let's go to diode mode. So I started by saying, let's go diode mode. The little hot spot was right around here. And let's see what we can find. So on my known good, when that chip is on there and I diode mode, I get right here. Let's zoom in so you guys can follow along. All right, so let's zoom in. On my known good, right here, I get 0.5. So let me show you that spot so that we are all on the same page. Right there, 0.5. The middle guy is open, and then the other guy is also 0.5. And then when I went to the other guy, 0.5, open, 0.5, more or less. So that is my battery data, and my positive battery pack is about 0.4, and of course ground is ground. So when I compared that over to my bad board, it was a match. So when I did diode mode, I did not detect a problem. Where's that spot? It is over here. All right, so I no longer have the battery connector. You can see it's all kind of corroded under there. But I did the same thing. I would diode mode and I got 0.5 open because it doesn't go anywhere. 0.5, ground of course is ground. Battery positive power is 0.4. And then over here, 0.5, open, 0.5. So the bad board and the good board were the same here at the battery connector. Now remember, as long as I don't have a battery connected and I inject a wire into the main power rail, and as long as I don't have that charge IC, this board will boot up. So I felt that the problem was somewhere right around here, and yet diode mode is not telling me what's up. So I'm going to kind of fast forward and cut to the chase on this one and just kind of tell you what I found. All right, so let's see. Bunch of hello everyone's over here in chat from very far away. Nigeria, Ireland, Brazil. You guys are all over the place chilling out watching this lesson, I guess. All right, so what are we going to do now? So again, if I put the charge IC on the board, then I get a hotspot. And the hotspot that I got was somewhere kind of right around here. Okay, so now here's the thing that I noticed. Let's go ahead and like drill down and see if we can understand a little bit about these lines and see if we can figure out what is the problem, because diode mode at the connector, which is our main strategy, diode mode the connector, it was a match between the bad board and the good board. So what is up with that? When I injected through the battery connector on the bad board, I saw a current leak. So there was some way that electricity was going to ground, even though I can't detect a short. Right? So what is up with that? So let's go to ZXW and see if we can kind of like guess a little bit on what do these lines go to, because, you know, spoiler alert, the problem I don't really know exactly what the problem is, but the problem I think the problem is still these little data lines here. So what's up with these guys? You guys are bad, I just know it. All right, so let's go and see what the heck are these guys, and can we figure out, you know, how do they work? I have no idea. So let's jump over to ZXW. So I'm going to pull up ZXW for you guys, and let's go see what we can figure out. Allegedly, I can pull up ZXW. Does that work? Yay! ZXW, my buddy. All right. ZXW has an S22 board. So we're looking at S22. So let's kind of look around here and find that same battery connector. And here it is, battery connectors. Now, as we look at the battery connector, we can see the ground side, we can see the power side, but what we really want to look at is battery data. I notice that even when I have a fully charged battery that I know is charged up because of my good board, if I connect that battery, I see current leaking and the battery charge is reported as 0. So that's another clue. So this is why we're kind of focusing in this area. How does the Samsung think that the battery is 0? How does it even know what the battery percentage is? How does that work? So that kind of leads us over here to battery data. So let's drill down and see. Luckily, we can see the names of these lines. So here's this one, VBAT ground sense. All right, and then we've got one over here, VBAT ID. And then here at all of these guys are the same. This is our main positive power from the battery. And then on the other side, and remember, these were all 0.5, open 0.5. Over here, VBAT sense and VBAT ID 2. All right, so let's just guess that the VBAT ID is some sort of a signal that is connecting to the battery BMS, and it's recognizing information about the battery itself, who made it, how old it is, its charge cycles, something like that. So what I'm most interested in are these guys, VBAT sense and his brother, VBAT ground sense. So that word sense, I really don't know how this works, and this is kind of my point for you guys. You don't have to be an electrical engineer. I mean, you can ask ChatGPT, like, hey, give me your idea, wrong probably, on how does battery, charge percentage work, and it might give you an idea. And you can even ask it to give you a hint. What do you think these lines mean? And I think that that is another tool that we didn't used to have. So be creative, be curious, and see what you can find out. So this word sense likely means a form of current sensing, a way for the listening chip, which is probably the charge IC, or the TriStar chip, or both. Those guys are going to be listening to the battery BMS, and it's going to be trying to figure out what the actual battery percentage is based on any number of ways that that thing can signal to it. So the word sense, though, usually implies that there's a current sensing resistor somewhere, and the listening chip is going to have a finger on one side of it and a finger on the other side of that resistor, and it's going to be able to kind of figure out what the battery charge percentage is by kind of sensing the difference across a very tiny resistor. That's just sort of a theme that appears in a lot of this stuff. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's ask a question on our good board. Let's just ask the question. Let's go ask, what is diode mode on the VBAT ground sense and the VBAT regular sense, so not ground, VBAT regular sense. Let's just see what is diode mode when we take off the chip that was getting hot on the bad board. All right, so stay with me and let's see what happens when we do because now we have a difference to follow. One is open, the good board is open, where the bad board is 0.5. So that's weird. So let's go and see where do those two lines go. So let's go back to ZXW and see if we can figure that out. So this is now supposed to be open. See, we're clicking it and see where does it go, where does it go, where does it go, where does it go? Aha, it goes over here to the missing chip. There it is, VBAC ground sense. And it also goes over here to this chip, U7001. Now U7001 does not have any corrosion or water damage around it. So if we look at the board itself, so if we kind of look over here, you know, this area is not wet. It's not water damage. That is, you know, looks pretty okay. There's no reason for that chip to have a problem. It's not getting hot. It doesn't seem like it has any corrosion around it. It seems pretty normal. So, you know, we'll just say noted. All right, so back here, we are now, let's check to see what do we get at the same spot. It should be 0.5 and open. All right, so we've got to measure, we've got to find this spot right here. We've got to go to the third row and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got to find J5, and let's compare just J5 on the bad board and the good board. All right, so we're going to find, let's see if we can move these to match this. I'm going to put this on silent. All right, how do I do that? I don't know how to use this phone. Are you guys going to get upgraded iPhone 17s? What do you think about the 17? I honestly thought about it, which I never upgrade phones, but I was like, oh, I really want one of those really thin little piece of paper phones, but man, they were ugly. No, no thanks, pass. I'm kind of bummed out I was going to get one, but no. All right, so let's find out red probe on ground, and we're going to jump in right here. All right, so we're gonna find this spot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. 0.5. 0.5 on my bad board, the wet board, the water damaged board. Now on my known good, it's going to be open. All right, so here's the known good where I've taken off that same chip, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, open. All right, now this board still has the second chip on there. What does that mean? It means that even when this chip is here, the path to ground for that VBAC ground sense is through this chip. And with that chip in my pocket, there's no path to ground at all. This is normal. It's supposed to be like this. The battery VBAC sense ground, whatever that is, part of sensing the battery percentage, it doesn't go to ground because it goes to ground through the chip that's in my pocket right now. Without the chip there, it's OL, open. That is normal. But on my phone I'm trying to fix, it doesn't work like that. I'm not getting open. I'm getting 0.5. So what does that mean? How can that be possible? And this is the reason I wanted to make that video. And it's because when I first just asked the diode mode difference between these two guys, they were a match. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. It was a match. And it isn't until I took that chip off that I can actually see a difference. So why is this spot coming up as 0.5 when it should be coming up as open? And I have a theory. My theory is that it is maybe connected to somewhere in the board or in a chip. I have a theory that it's connected to the other 0.5. So follow me on this. Let's switch our multimeter to continuity mode, right? Beep, beep mode. We're going to go to continuity mode. And continuity mode just asks, are these two things connected? All right, so I'm going to go over here on my good board, and I'm going to ask, is this guy right here, is that pin right there, is it connected to itself? Yes. Is this connected in continuity mode over here? No beep. It's not connected, right? It makes sense. They're not supposed to be connected. This goes to the chip that's gone, and this goes to wherever it goes. They're not connected. All right, so now I'm going to go back over here. And remember, the normal value is supposed to be 0.5, 0.5 open, 0.5, 0.5 open, 0.5, and they were both the same. But now in continuity mode, I'm going to ask over here. All right, so you, right there, do you have continuity over to here? Beep. There's a beep there. What does that mean? That means that the reason I was getting 0.5 and 0.5 is because they are connected. They are the same line. That is not supposed to be the case. So I have found a problem that is invisible to me if I'm just measuring 0.5, 0.5, it's a match. 0.5, 0.5, it's a match. Because in this case, that 0.5 is supposed to become open when I take the chip off. Okay, now let's try to figure out why, and I don't know why. So I thought I would catch you guys up and you can come along with me while we try to figure out why these two have continuity. And does it make sense that this would explain the problem? And I think it does. I think that when these things have continuity, because one of them is sense ground, I think that's giving that battery power a path to ground. And that's why with the chip on, because these are connected somewhere in the board, it is causing our battery power to go to ground, and it can't boot up with the chip on, but it can with the chip off. So how come these two lines are connected? Let's try to find out. So what are our possibilities? Let's look over at ZXW and see if we can figure that much out. Let's see, how does this work? How does that work? Here we go. Hi from Sweden. Wow. Let's see. Oh, audio is back. Uh-oh. Oh no, audio is cutting out. All right, I gotta sense pins shorted together. Yes, not to ground. Yes, okay. All right, so I don't know how much audio you guys missed. And I do think I should pop out chat so that I can see it. Man, I'm getting too old for the multitasking. I don't know if I can do it, guys. It is rough out here. It is rough with one display, green screen, a lot of moving pieces. I'm over 50 now, guys. I don't know if I can do this. Okay, so here's the deal. In case you missed it, here's where we are. In diode mode with both of these, a known good and a bad one, diode mode at the connector is a match all the way around. It's on the data pins, 0.5 open, 0.5, 0.5 open, 0.5, match, 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 no difference between the two. Now, when I take the charge IC off, the chip that's getting hot, and then I come back, now I can find a problem. I can see the reason why I was getting diode mode readings apparent matching, but actually a problem is because of this. So check this out. Over here on my good board, in continuity mode, my VBAT sense ground and my VBAT sense regular do not have continuity, no beep. They are not the same. Two different lines. They're not connected. And then over here on my bad board, the reason that I was getting 0.5 and 0.5 is because they're connected somewhere. So this is a problem. The current sensing circuitry for how the board understands the battery percentage is somehow connected across, which makes it allow battery power to go into ground, and it believes that it is a 0% battery, or it just can't understand the battery reading. All right, we got the last 8 minutes. Before that, okay, all right, close enough. Why are these connected? I don't know. So let's see if we can figure that out. So where do they go? So let's look at those two lines in ZXW and try to figure out where do they go? Where might they be connected? Okay, so let's kind of get our big picture. So we have the VBAT ground sense is connected to VBAT sense. So VBAT sense and VBAT ground sense, battery current sensing, are connected somewhere. So let's see, where do they both go? Let's start with the ground sense. The ground sense goes into the board, so it could be connected somewhere in the board, and it comes up under U7005. That's the charge IC. That charge IC is in my pocket right now. So I've ruled out that that charge IC is how those lines are connected. The other place that it goes is over here to the undamaged chip, U7001, the TriStar. All right, so maybe it is connected inside U7001 or under it. Maybe it is. Maybe it does have corrosion. I don't know. Now, where does the other one go? So that's one. The other one goes to the same two chips. So the charge IC is in my pocket, so it can't be connected there, and it leaves us here with this guy. So if we look here, G7 VBAT sense and H7 VBAT ground sense are probably connected right within that chip or under it. So either there's some corrosion under there, or maybe like a blob of solder or something like that, or maybe the chip itself has gotten electrocuted, and inside the chip, those two things are connected. But as long as those two things are connected, we're not going to be able to boot this up and get data, because it's not going to be able to stay on if it can't sense a correct battery percentage. All right, so what do we do now? Let's see what you guys think we should do in chat, and it will also tell me if the audio is working. All right, so what do you guys think we should do about this problem? I've looked around. So while you guys are going to answer me, let's go ahead and take one more quick look and just say, over here at the charge IC, let's go check on the charge IC. Over here at the charge IC, do we see, is there anything in here that jumps out at us that makes us say, hey, maybe they're connected just from like corrosion or something under here? And the answer is no. In fact, we can show you in more detail that in continuity mode, all right, we've got our, right here, so don't go away, buddy. Here is our VBAT sense ground, and that one right there, the neighbor, VBAT sense. They're connected somewhere, and it's not at that chip, because that chip is in my pocket. And if we go over to the good one, here's the good one, and we've got VBAT sense ground and VBAT sense no beep, not connected. This is normal. All right, so what should we do now? They're connected somewhere, not there though. Where do you guys think it is? All right, take the IC off and see. Remove the IC. Take out the TriStar. I think you guys are right. Even though there's like no actual sign of damage, I think that you guys are absolutely right, that we should say, okay, this guy is either got corrosion under it, maybe some accident happened, maybe there's some kind of a problem, or it's electrically fried inside there. So we're going to take it off and see if we can figure out why that is. Now, I don't have a replacement for the TriStar, except for the one that's on the good board. So let's see if we can get that off, and we'll just see what do we find. So we'll take this off with some hot air. We'll have to pay close attention to the orientation mark on this chip. All right, looks like there's a dot that looks like it's right up here. It's kind of like facing up there. So we'll kind of remember that. All right, we'll go ahead and take this off and see what do we find. And what I really like about this is when the multimeter can lead you to a problem that you wouldn't just be able to look at. It's like, oh, there's a burnt guy, that's it. You know, this one, I really like it when the multimeter takes us to a problem that we wouldn't otherwise see. So we'll put some flux on here. Now I'm using a new microscope. Right now, I absolutely cannot recommend it. It's the Gorilla microscope. The zoom didn't work at all. It's the one that's supposed to have a built-in thermal camera. It gets really hot, overheats. The on and off switch doesn't work. Zoom doesn't work, doesn't have Barlow lens. Camera's not that great. Not a huge fan right now, but I do know that it is a, you know, kind of a new build. So I appreciate the idea of it. The idea that wouldn't be cool for you guys to be able to see thermal camera kind of in the same view as your regular microscope. So I like that idea. Okay, so here is the chip. All right, so the chip is off. And I'm not seeing a ton of corrosion. I'm not seeing any corrosion. So let's kind of flip this upside down and take a look. And looks pretty normal. All right, now with that chip off, right here in this spot, let's spin it around so it'll match what ZXW shows us. You know, it looks okay. All right, so now I am curious to see whether or not we still have a connection, because now, according to ZXW at least, there's no way that these two lines could be connected through a chip. So if they're still connected, it's inside the layers of the board. So let's find out. So we're going to go back to our battery connector. Oh wait, I took it off the wrong one, did I? No, I didn't. That's the right one. Well, that's not the battery connector though. Battery connector, where are you? Oh, you're over here. Yeah, this one is the bad board. Good thing I didn't take it off the wrong one, because then I have to stick it back on. Actually, no, I don't. I need it. I'm going to need it for the bad board. All right, let's go and do continuity mode again. With that chip off the board, let's find out our VBAT sense ground and VBAT, do they still have continuity? They do. Oh, that's going to be rough. All right. So now we really have to scratch our heads. Why are these two lines talking to each other? How could that possibly be true? Let's go on a hunt. So this one's going to be tough. This is going to be tough for us. Let's see. Back to ZXW. I don't think that there's much. There's not going to be anything easy here. So let's find out. All right. So we have this guy and this guy. They are talking to each other, even though U7001 is in my pocket. So this guy is in my pocket. And this guy is in my pocket. So those two lines are talking to each other. And it's not because of either one of these chips. So let's look around. Does it go anywhere else? I don't see anywhere else on this side of the board. And over here, I don't see anything else on this side of the board. So we can flip it and see where does it go. All right, so I don't really understand why we have, you know, E25 is red and E23 is red. Like, why are these lines going from the battery connector down into the interposer and into the bottom of the board? Because they don't go anywhere. Right? They don't go anywhere at all. Right? They don't go anywhere. And if I look over here, they don't go anywhere. So they just kind of like have almost like a dead end that just goes from the battery connector down through these two little interposers, and then it's a dead end. So they don't appear anywhere. What does that mean? It's possible that in the layers of the board that we might have VBAT ground sense E25 and VBAT sense E23. They might be talking to each other because there is some piece of corrosion that is right there, right? So that is really going to be kind of tough for us. So let's see what you guys think we should do about it. So we don't know that those two, are those two balls like bridged together? And that's how these two lines are talking to each other. And if they are, then we would have to separate the two layers of the S22 plus. Now, if we do have to separate the two layers just to solve that problem, then we would have to reball them back together in order to be able to get data out of it. And at that point, I usually do prefer to just take the CPU from the top board, unless there is a third security chip, which is sometimes down in the bottom board. So now it gets to be complicated, right? So let's try to think of what would be the safest solution to this problem. If these guys are connected somewhere in the board right now, what could we do about it? So let's see what chat thinks, what kind of ideas. All right, how short are they? Okay, so let's see. We've got corrosion rarely gets dead shorts. The IC may be shorted. We ruled that out. Board swap, nope. I don't know what CNC1 is. That's very weird. How short are they? I like that idea. Maybe you should start testing the neighbors. Inject power and burn it. I kind of like that idea. So let's combine how short are they with inject power and burn it. So let's see. Using the short killer would be a bad idea. I don't know about that. All right, let's find out. Okay, so right now, let's go to ohms mode. So you're gonna have to use the trust-based multimeter while we figure out in ohms mode exactly how short these two lines are. So how do I get rid of this? All right, go away ZXW. All right, ohms. What is the actual resistance between A and B? 1.1 ohms. So 1.1 ohms, that is pretty one piece of wire there, right? This is like a pretty serious short, right? So this is a pretty big short, I would say. All right, so let's see what you guys think about that. I really want to find a way to keep the chat on the top. Let's see. Okay, all right, so let's kind of, again, just kind of rule out the easy stuff. What are your leads together? That's a great question. Putting the leads together is 0.1. So this is 1 ohm of resistance between these two spots somewhere in this board. Okay, so let's look at this. Yeah, so somewhere in there, probably, I don't have a good way to look down here. Yeah, probably in here. All right, so this is all burned and fluxy looking. That's probably what's up. So let's see, there's a couple of things that we could do. One is more fun than the rest, although I don't think it's really going to help us a lot. But it would be fun from a teaching and learning perspective. And that was the suggestion from Dumas Brazorf. Why don't we inject power and burn it? I don't think that's going to work because I think that we've got too much connection probably down here, in between these two guys. Probably too much to be able to unshort it. But it would be fun to try. What do you guys think? Is there a downside to that? I don't see any downside. All right, let's just make sure that we can't clean it off. Wishful thinking there, but I kind of like the burn it out idea. It's probably not going to work, but I like it. Your face cam is hunting for focus. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that. It's all turned off to not try to autofocus, not try to find faces. And it's very irritating, I know, and sorry about that. I don't think I can fix that. Yep, still short. Okay, so let's do a little fun experiment here. So I'm going to take a piece of wire, and this is a little demo that we do at Practical Board Repair. Oh, I'm not allowed to call it Practical Board Repair School anymore. I got in trouble with New York State for saying Practical Board Repair School, which is very sad because we've been Practical Board Repair School for 10 years, but that is a no. The word school has a very specific definition here in great New York State. And if you are not providing vocational training, you can't use the word school. So what do you think we should call it then? It's kind of an entertainment workshop. I don't know. But in Practical Board Repair Workshop, we do this little demo. So I'm going to take this little thin piece of wire, and I am going to tin it like this. And now I'm going to show you what happens when I just apply my DC power across this wire. So I'm going to just connect up my alligator clamps to this guy and put red on one side of the wire, black on the other, and I'm going to send battery voltage, which is right now set on 3.9 volts, which is a normal battery. I'm going to send battery voltage through this wire. All right, so let's see. We're going to see what does it look like to, quote, burn a short, right? So if a short has really, really high resistance, I don't think ours is like this, but if it did, we could do this. All right, so I'm going to put my red guy right here. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see anything. I'll put some flux on top of this. So if we see flux burn, then we know something's up. All right, so now I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to touch it. Ready? Did you see a little puff of smoke? I hope you did. Now my wire is in two pieces. Did you guys see that puff of smoke? See how it's burnt? The end of it right there, it's burnt up. Maybe we could do it again. One right there. Look right in the center, right there. Puff of smoke. Did you see the puff of smoke? I hope you did. So if you run a battery voltage through a short that's very, very tiny, it has a very high resistance, it's a thin little wire, you can actually burn the short. Now that doesn't work with a big short, like a big wire like this guy. So if I do the exact same thing that you just saw me do, here, we'll go under here. This is a big short, big fat wire. All right, so you can hear my DC power. And look, I'm going to put my finger here. Ah! Look, nothing happens. I can hold it. It's not getting hot at all. It doesn't burn. No burn. Why? Because this is a big short that has low resistance. So it's a big highway. It's not going to actually get on higher and burn. Okay. So can you even use the word course? I don't think we do use the word course. We just say practical board repair soldering, PBRS? I don't know. Love to hear your suggestions. Okay. So convince me why we should not do that. I don't see a downside. Right now, we have those two lines are connected. VBAT sense ground somewhere are connected. And the place that they're probably connected is at these two balls right there, right? They're probably connected, like a little speck of something is probably connecting them, E25 and E23, right? They're a little tiny speck maybe. So what's the downside if we just injected the exact same, situation, just kind of try to inject it into the board and just see if we could separate them by burning them so that then they would just go back to being how they were. Now that would be a bad idea if we had chips on the line or the CPU or something really important. But right now, this line doesn't go anywhere. We've taken the chips off. They're in our pocket. It's just wires in the board. And honestly, if we can't burn the short out, then we're kind of left with the next sort of easiest that I think is easier than trying to take off the CPU, because there's a lot of question about how Android is listening to other chips and NOC security and external secure elements and a lot of variables. Probably the next easiest thing, if we can't burn the short out, is to just cut the short off, leave it in there, paint over it, and then make our own wires that connect the battery itself to those two chips. You know, that's probably our next option. So let's see what you guys think. Is anybody able to come up with a downside on why we shouldn't, you know, just see if we can burn the short out of the board? I don't think it's going to work, but I think it might be worth a shot. So let's see what chat thinks. All right, the line won't be chunky. It's just data. For the sake of being sure, I suggest that you separate the board and see went wrong. No, I don't want to do that. Also, I don't have a stencil. Practical board repair masterclass, college, practical board repair enlightenment. I don't know, man. But they didn't like the word school. I mean, it's kind of like touch disease. You know, it's not really a disease. Everybody knows that, right? Practical board repair school isn't like high school or, you know, university. It's just a, you know, fun little course. Okay, let's go ahead. You guys have not convinced me of a reason not to give it a try, so I'm gonna go for it. Let's see if I can. I want to see chat at the same time. I'm gonna move that over there, and I'm gonna gotta be able to see this like the old days. All right, let's see. Practical board repair training. Maybe. Okay, so how are we going to actually accomplish this? How are we going to actually be able to try to burn the short out of the board? Because it really is, you know, a thin little line here. So if we solder a wire here, and we could just try to, how do we avoid our wires that we solder on here to sort of inject voltage? How do we avoid those becoming like the thinnest wire? I think these are already kind of like a thin spot, so we need to get kind of like a thick wire on here. And yeah, I think we'll have to, I'm just trying to guess if this is a better place to try to put a wire on those, or over here at this spot. That might be a better spot over here, because we're going to ultimately take these guys likely off this board to begin with, so that the TriStar chip, if we can't get this short out of the board, we're going to just cover up those pads to begin with, or maybe even just rip them off, so that we can put our own jumpers that go to the battery and have them connect under that chip. Okay, we're messing around too long. Let's get it started. Actually, I think I will go back. It doesn't matter. We're going to be ripping them off either way. This would probably have a little bit more clearance. All right, I've made my decision. I'm going to try to burn the short out of the board right here at the battery connector. All right, so let's see. What do you guys think about that plan? Practical Board Repair Academy. Short in bottom side. Well, maybe somewhere down deep in there. But remember, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go to the bottom board. It just is a dead end. There's two balls there. I don't have any idea why. That doesn't really make sense to me at all, but that is the way it appears to be. Okay, now I need a wire. What can I use for a wire that itself isn't going to just immediately burn up? Let me look at my wire collection. Let's see. Let's get two wires on here. What do you guys think happened to my crab pot? So here's the deal. 60 iPhones in 2 traditional Maryland Eastern Shore crab pots. And they had brand new 50-foot line. So brand new line, 50 feet. And at the end of the 50-foot line was a float that was made out of some kind of a white bottle, like a plastic bottle, like kind of like a detergent bottle, or, you know, something like, I don't know, kind of like a milk jug kind of thing. And I put air tags in each of those and then threw them in the bay. Came back after 48 hours, and it was pretty deep out there. That was the thing that I had never really done before. I found a spot in the bay that, it's a very shallow bay, one spot where there's a channel 25 feet deep. So the bay's like 3 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet, 25 feet. And then I dropped it right there with a 50-foot, two 50-foot lines. And then I went back out there. I got to see Mark. It was very cool. He came down because he lives in Maryland. So that was very, very, very fun to see Mark. I got to teach Max and Fiona how to go crabbing. Super fun. And then Mark went with me and my dad out to go get these phones. And they were gone. They were just straight up. We couldn't find the floats. Checked the app with the AirTag, and there was no, last seen the time is the minute before I dropped it. Where are those phones? Who has an idea? What do you think happened to them? All right, so we'll stick a wire on here. And we'll see. So I wish I could show you guys the DC power, because the DC power will show us current going through here. Okay. Now these guys, this looks terrible, I think. All right, let's see. Start with low amperage and see where does it get hot. Well, it's not going to get hot. I'll tell you where it's going to get hot. It's going to get hot right here on my two wires, because those are probably the thinnest wires in the circuit. That's what's going to happen. All right, let's see. Bridge power's on that chip place. All right, so we could go back and look. Are the pads bridged? It's too fragile for me to flip it over. They're not going to be bridged, but it's a good thought. That would definitely make sense. With the thermal camera is not going to show heat, because if the thing gets hot, which is down in the board, there's just nothing but ground, that big hunk of interposer, right? We're not going to be able to see heat coming from inside the interposer right there. We won't be able to see anything. Bet the wire you'll solder on those pins will burn before the board shorts were killed. I bet you're right. That is also my bet. What's going to burn is the thinnest wire in the circuit. So the hope is that the short is some speck that's in there that could be the thinnest wire. More likely, those two balls are just touching. So the thinnest wire is going to be these guys right there, and that's going to be the thing that burns off. All right, that's why I suggest start with low amp. Well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, now I am going to see what happens. So let's go ahead and let's limit our current down so that we can kind of raise it up. But we're going to put a limit of 1 amp, all right? Hoping eventually these two little wires are going to burn off, but hopefully we'll be able to at least see it. All right, now I'm really not going to know what's going on if I go to connect these and nothing happens. Then I will have no idea what's up. So let's connect wire number 1. Now these are very fragile, so I can move around just a little bit. So there's wire number 1 to DC power. All right, now we're going to come over here. Now let's try to focus on my two little wires and see, are you guys going to burn? Somebody's going to eventually burn. It's either going to be these two wires, or they're just going to come off. Let's make sure it's not touching that. All right, that's raised up. All right, it's either going to be these guys, or the short in the board is going to go away. All right, let's see what happens. So I'm going to connect back to my wire. Where is it? Okay. I see nothing happening right now. All right, so All right, I'm connecting one side to one. All right, let's use the multimeter and say, are you guys a wire still? Let's find out. Are you guys still a wire? Continuity mode. No beep. Let's see, continuity mode. No beep. Hooray! All right, drum roll. That's very unsatisfying because I touched it and I don't see any smoke, I don't see anything, I don't see any response. Okay, looks like it's working. Yes? Audio working? Audio? Is it working? Anybody hear anything? Yay! All right, so remember when I was using the super thin wire. I want this camera to calm down, camera. Just chill. Yes, I'm gonna be very still. No, stop that. All right, so remember, as soon as you connect to through the thin wire, it's just instantly pop, right? So I touched it, and it's so like fragile over here, it's hard to show you guys, right? So all I did was just bring this guy over, touch it, zip, like that, just touched it, and now I have zero current. Zero current means there's no short. So I think it might have actually worked, which is pretty, like I'm surprised. So let's find out. So multimeter back in continuity mode. And now let's go back. Let's kind of move those over and say sense ground and sense no beep. Oh, you guys can't see. No beep, hooray. A to B. No beep. All right, which means in diode mode, they should both be, or one of them is OL and the other one's 0.5, right? That one is OL. Oh, they're both going to be OL now because I took both chips off. Yeah, all right. Continuity mode, is that true? I cannot believe that that actually worked. No beep. Oh my gosh, that is great, man. That is super awesome. So I can take these off and these guys all ready for rebuild, right? All right, let's check again. Science, very sciencey. Yes, I love some science. My favorite kind of science is dropping 60 phones in the bay. Yeah, no beep. No beep, it's my favorite, no beep. All right, very cool. I'm kind of tempted to go to my pottery class. I kind of want to go to my pottery class because it's still going on. So I think I'm going to end this stream here because otherwise it's just rebuild, right? So I've already seen this phone boot up. I know it can boot up. And its problem is that these two lines were connected together. Some tiny little speck. I am actually really surprised because if it's a big blob, it's not going to burn up, you know. But this one was small enough that whatever speck that was, Isn't that cool? I think that's so cool. And man, did it save a lot of work. So I'm not gonna have to separate those layers. I'm not gonna have to do CPU. I'm not gonna have to worry about the third security chip and whether or not there's something else going on and what version of Android. None of that. All I'm gonna do is put back on my battery connector, put back on my charge IC, put back on my TriStar, and everything's gonna be fine. So with that, it's Friday night. I'm gonna say goodbye. I would love to hear your thoughts on what happened to my crab pots. Really want to do my water damage experiment, and I will see you guys next time. I'm gonna go to pottery class. All right, how do I turn this off? Bye-bye.